Hi everyone, I'm Mel Armstrong and welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, I'm an illustrator and surface pattern designer from Wellington, New Zealand. Today I'm going to talk about my journey completing the 100-day project. And for those of you who don't know, the 100-day project is a challenge where you commit to doing something creative for 100 consecutive days. It can be anything you want, from painting to writing to learning a new skill. I started the 100-day project on the 22nd of February of this year, 2023. And I am so glad I did it. It was challenging, but it was also very rewarding, and it taught me a lot about myself and my creativity and my endurance. So I decided to paint in my sketchbook every day. I'm typically a digital artist, but I love painting with gouache, and I thought making myself accountable each day by ensuring I paint something might help me to improve my skills and become a better artist. Every day I painted, and then I posted a reel on my Instagram channel where amazingly my followers grew from 18,000 to 50,000 over the course of 5 months. Along the way I got lots of questions from followers, so I thought I'd start by sharing my answers to some of those questions. The most common question was what paper I was using. So I used this Fabriano Studio watercolour paper, which is a hot pressed 300 gram paper that has a really smooth surface, which I really love when using gouache. I made some sketchbooks after watching a few YouTube videos on bookbinding so that I could keep all my paintings together. I used a combination of acrylic paint by Holbein and PBO gouache, and then I added in some Winsor & Newton towards the end. Now the acrylic paint is great for layering as it doesn't reactivate, but I love the look and feel of regular gouache like the PBO or the Winsor & Newton. I also often used coloured pencils. My favourites are these Faber-Castell Polychromos pencils. They work really well over the top of gouache, and they are really fantastic for adding detail to the paintwork. I also used Posca pens, which are also great for adding texture pattern and detail on top of the paint, although they do tend to reactivate the PBO gouache, and they didn't work so well on top of the Holbein gouache for some reason. For brushes, I mostly used these Da Vinci Cosmo Top spin brushes. I use the number 6 mostly as it has a really lovely long tip so that you can do very fine lines as well as paint wider areas. When painting with the Holbein acrylic paint, you do need to ensure that you give your brushes a really good clean though, as the paint can dry out your brushes and ruin them. I also used a bunch of random texture brushes for the backgrounds and large areas. I'll put links below to all of these items so that you can check them out for yourself if you wish. Another question I often got on Instagram was how I came up with my ideas each day. So mostly I just did what came into my mind, and sometimes I'd flick through one of my gardening magazines that I like to buy from charity shops, and I'd just pick a flower to paint and then I'd turn it into some sort of pattern. I also asked people for requests. I also got asked how long I spent each day on each painting. Well, this really depended on the day and how much work I had on, but I tried not to spend more than 1 hour each day. And this included the editing of the reel, which I did in Adobe Premiere Pro. Now, I had a kind of system in place, so the editing really only took me 5 minutes. Keyboard shortcuts are an absolute time saver. One of the biggest challenges I faced during the 100-day project was staying motivated. There were days when I just didn't feel like creating anything, but I knew that I had to keep on going. Another challenge I faced was finding the time to create. There were some days that my workload was huge and I really didn't have time to spend an hour painting. So on those days I painted something small and simple that only took maybe 10 minutes. Now the biggest challenge, well, I probably couldn't call it a challenge as such, but it was something that resulted in me having to stop for a while. On April 25th, I painted some poppies for Anzac Day and I announced I needed a break. My father was incredibly sick with cancer and didn't have long to live. I stopped work and I stopped painting to help my mum take care of him at home so that he could spend his last days surrounded by family. This was one of the most challenging things I've ever done in my life. Caring for a loved one who is dying of cancer and is in so much pain is incredibly hard. But I wouldn't have had it any other way, and I'm so glad we could honour his wishes by having him at home. He sadly passed away on May 17th. On June the 1st, I returned to the 100-day project. I learned a lot about myself during the 100-day project. I learned what works and what doesn't work in regards to working with gouache. I learned that I'm far more comfortable painting flowers, in particular patterns of flowers, than I am painting animals. I learned that I'm more disciplined than I thought I was, and I learned that I'm capable of achieving anything I set my mind to. And I discovered that people actually liked my paintings and wanted to see more of them. I also discovered that paintings I didn't particularly like and that I really wanted to paint over and throw in the bin were very much liked by my followers on Instagram. This one in particular I really hated, but it ended up going viral on Instagram, receiving over 500,000 views. So let's talk about what happened to my Instagram account, and if the engagement improved and if it increased my number of followers. And just a side note, my intention was more about challenging myself as an artist than trying to gain new followers. So if you look at the data, I'm using Trend Hero, which I'll link to below. You can see that when I started this challenge in February, I had around 18,000 followers, and that stayed pretty consistent for a month, only slowly growing for the rest of February. But then in March, it quickly started to grow a little faster, with more followers each day. There was a month or two in May and June when I had time off to look after my dad, where it plateaued a bit, but then it started increasing consistently again once I was back on the challenge. The interesting thing here is that this graph shows that my growth was organic. Normally, if you get a quick growth and then a big dip, it indicates non-organic growth, but mine has been consistently growing, which is great. I enjoyed the sense of accomplishment I felt each day when I finished a painting. I also enjoyed the sense of community I found among other people who were participating in the 100-day project. I also enjoyed the sense of community I found among other people who were participating in the 100-day project. I got so many messages from new followers to my Instagram channel that were inspired to take on their own challenge, which was so wonderful. Absolutely. The 100-day project was an amazing experience that I would recommend to anyone. It's a great way to improve your creativity, discipline, and sense of accomplishment. Thanks everyone for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video about my journey completing the 100-day project in 2023. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. And if you're thinking about starting your own 100-day project, I encourage you to do it. It's an experience you won't regret. I would love for you to tag me so that I can follow along with your project. Now, if you want to see more videos like this, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button so that you are notified each time I post a video. Also, come follow me on Instagram, as I do intend to keep going with these gouache paintings, but probably not every day. I want to really take my time and make each one special whilst refining the skills I've gained over the past few months. Now I encourage you to sit back and enjoy 100 paintings in 100 days. See ya!